watching. But for those in the know, it's now Blockbuster Week in 2KU. The first week of October, week 7 now in front of us. I'm Type A Joy 101 here. Welcome to today's episode of the 2KU Weekly Podcast. No Danny B today. Instead, I'm here just joined by the Pig Bear. How was your week?
It was good. Had a busy week going to Florida for a little bit, and football 2 games during the week was kind of insane. But yeah, just a good week overall.
I did have a wedding to go to today, or on Saturday, so I missed all the real life games. What a week I chose
You
to
missed
miss.
the weekend. And I
Regardless,
mean, Bob,
let's take a look at our
the weekend was good.
take a look at our headlines this week. Of course, we had Florida State upsetting Clemson at home in an overtime game. Michigan remaining unbeaten in East Lansing with a close matchup against the Spartans. We had some top teams going down, namely Louisville, Duke, and Alabama, all taking upset losses. Let's start our journey though in Tallahassee. We had to pre-record this game. We were all busy this week. Danny had something to do. Big Bear had something to do. I had something to do, which I found out after the fact. But we pre-recorded it. I think it did go well though. Florida State hosting Clemson, the big matchup we circled entering this year. This would decide the ACC. And with Florida State's overtime win 24-21, the Seminoles remain unbeaten and are now the favorites to win the ACC. Your thoughts, Pig Bear?
Congrats, Florida State.
That's it?
Just great game played, and Clemson kind of fall back in the end, but a little too late. Too little. Too little, too late.
Danny, is that who just joined?
Yeah, great game for Florida State. It's a great game for them, especially with everything that's happening in Florida. Great game to rally the state together.
Hang on, I gotta turn your volume up here. Yeah. Stay safe, Danny, by the way.
Thank you, everyone. Just got to my new head spot.
All right. Up next, let's head. Sorry?
New headset and everything.
All right.
Ooh.
We got mic quality.
Woo!
I remember when I got my first microphone. It was a truly momentous occasion. Let's move on now. From Florida to my home state of Michigan. Growing up here, you're either a Michigan fan or a State fan. It is, and once that week in October comes around, it is Civil War time. The Battle for Paul Bunyan Trophy, in what might be the most high-profile matchup we've seen in years of this game. Michigan State gave the Wolverines a run for their money. They ran away with this in the first half of Michigan, coming back from down 13-0, entering the second half, scoring 23 unanswered in the second to pull away for the 23-13 win against the Spartans. Your thoughts, Danny?
Yeah, great win by Michigan. They actually pulled through and got us a great game, and they proved their grit when it mattered most.
Pig Bear?
Yeah, Michigan's a scare. Well, everyone knows they're a scary team to win that, and one of the favorites to win national championship. Be a good gritty win for the Wolverines.
Up next, let's head out to the ACC once again, where Duke hosted a Georgia Tech team who started the year 0-2, but have since rebounded now. With this win over Duke, they are now 4-2, 28-21 the final from Durham. The Blue Devils falling to 3-2. Danny?
Yeah, well, that was a little bit of an interesting game to watch.
Pig Bear?
Yeah, a good turnaround for the Yellow Jackets. They're really in their season back on track.
From there, we move to the SEC in double overtime. Auburn improving to 4-1 with a 33-30 win over LSU. Double overtime in Baton Rouge is what we needed. And this LSU team seems to be bowing out of the race. But as for Auburn, are they now in the SEC race, Danny?
I do think they are in the race now. I mean, granted, not a lot of them have played conference games yet, but still, they're now in the running. They now have themselves spot on the leaderboard. Who knows? Maybe they'll knock off a team or two.
Big Bear?
Auburn's not only in this race, they might be heavy, well, not heavy favorites. They might be heavy dark horses. I am tired. I don't know what I'm on.
From a
Okay.
dark horse to what I think is the current favorite in the SEC, Tennessee, picking up a 16-10 win to improve to 5-1 over Arkansas. Danny?
Yeah, I mean, great win by Tennessee. They looked a little bit like they were going to be back to norm one week, but luckily they are back on track, and who knows? We might see them in Atlanta soon.
I think this Tennessee team is definitely there. This is an Arkansas squad, if you remember, who beat Georgia 2 weeks ago. Pig Bear?
Yeah, funny score. It's kind of similar to something I saw this weekend. But good job, Tennessee. They're heavy favorites. They're favorites in the SEC. Probably shouldn't use heavy here. But good times could be coming back to Rocky Top.
Up next, the biggest upset the Big East has seen all season. How about West Virginia upsetting Louisville and Morgantown? That's probably only their second biggest upset this year. 33-21, the final from Morgantown. What are your thoughts on how this impacts the Big East and Big East South specifically, Denny?
Yeah, I mean, Louisville, they were looking like a potential winner of the South, and here comes West Virginia, Mountain Mama, in their cool uniforms, coming in and giving them a smack.
Big Bear?
Yeah, West Virginia got the victory, and hey, this team, people wrote them off after lost to Clemson earlier in the season. But hey, West Virginia is battling back into this Big East race.
Up next to the SEC, Alabama skid continues with a home loss to Tulane, who improves to 4-1. The second most disastrous loss Alabama suffered this college football weekend. Danny?
Yeah, I mean, Tulane, they came in there, they gave them all they got, and they proved them their worth. And I mean, what's up with Alabama in these academic schools?
Big Bear?
Anchor down. Good job, Tulane, and roll wave.
Thankfully, Alabama doesn't play Vanderbilt till later in the year, I believe.
Yeah.
But up next, we head out to Pullman, where the Arizona Wildcats improved to 5-1 with a 29-24 win over Washington State. Danny?
Great win by, sorry, excuse me. Great win by Arizona. They performed well, and great job beating Washington State.
Big Bear?
Arizona's one of those other sneaky teams we have to watch out for. We didn't really expect it coming in now, but hey, here we are.
Staying in the pack for these next two games. How about Washington going into LA and upsetting an undefeated Trojan squad? 2013. The Huskies are now 3-2. Danny?
Some Pac-12 after dark. Some chaos happens. Also, be right back.
All right. Pig Bear?
Pac-12 after dark. Nothing better.
Nothing better. Staying in the Pac-12, 41-20 the final from Corvallis as Stanford tries to right the ship with a win over Oregon State. Cards now 3-2, as are the Beavers, but both teams going in different directions. Pig Bear?
Yeah, Stanford riding the ship and just getting back on track. It's like teams Clemson beat, kind of their season kind of falls off, but they're trying to get it back on track now. Here off Georgia Tech, West Virginia, now Stanford. Here all losses of Clemson, all going in the right direction.
Stanford could get to 4-2. They play USC next week though, in Palo Alto.
Yeah.
Wrapping up, this is actually an outcome I did not expect. I did not expect this one. In fact, I put it down the other way around. But how about San Jose State going into Boise and upsetting the Broncos? 24-20? And the Spartans are now undefeated. Pig Bear, your thoughts?
Wow, San Jose State getting it done. This is huge for them.
This is the biggest, this is probably up there as one of the biggest wins in program history. Now, really quick, we're going to go over we'll get the top 25 done, but we're gonna try and blaze through the conference standings and what the races look like. Starting in the ACC, Florida State, as expected. Welcome back, Danny. Florida State, as expected, the favorites in the Atlantic. They're the only undefeated team left, but there are a lot of one-loss teams. Clemson, NC State, and Wake Forest are all one-loss squads. How's South Carolina, though, at 4-2 with 2 conference wins as well? Meanwhile, the Coastal, a team that snuck up on everybody, is North Carolina at 5-1. Meanwhile, Georgia Tech, of course, 4-2. I wouldn't write out Virginia Tech or Duke even with their struggles early on. And how about Miami at 2-3? A lot of those losses came to power squads. I think the Hurricanes could shock some teams later on. Real quick, moving now to the Big East. I'm just gonna cover the power conferences right now. The Big East North with Temple's win over Syracuse and Villanova's loss. Temple are now the favorites in the division, followed by Nova and Rutgers. Meanwhile, in the South, it is a dead heat right now. Cincinnati still in charge. They have 4 conference wins. Something about that doesn't seem right, but I'm not going to question it. Right behind them, it's a dead heat. Both UCF and USF right next to each other, 4-1, 2-0 in conference. West Virginia's right behind them at 4-2. Louisville, 3-2. Those last 2 with 2-1 conference records. Big Ten, currently all the unbeaten teams, of course, on top. Iowa, Indiana, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State all have zeros in the loss column thus far. Though Indiana has a major test coming up against Penn State. And I wouldn't count the one-loss teams either. Michigan State, Wisconsin still very much can be competitive. Big 12, it's 4 teams that are running the North right now. Kansas, K-State, Missouri, BYU. Even with Kansas, they lost to Baylor this week. Their first loss of the season. I did forget to put that in our recap. But KU with that, even with that loss, are still the favorites in the division. I would watch out for K-State. They can be dangerous, as can BYU and Missouri. Meanwhile, in the South, it's now the Oklahomas who are in front, joined by a Texas A&M squad who is still unbeaten as of this point. Jumping out to the Pac-12. The top 2 teams in the North are facing each other this week. Utah and Oregon have a collision course set for Salt Lake City. Meanwhile, in the South, UCLA, USC, and Arizona are all together. The only unbeaten team in that squad is UCLA now, with USC's loss this week to Washington, pardon me. In the SEC, 4 one-loss teams remain: Florida, Tulane, Auburn, and Tennessee. Alabama's stock has fallen hard after their loss to the Green Wave. Meanwhile, 2-loss Georgia, I don't think should be written off entirely. I think they still have a lot of fight left and can make a run should the cards align. Same with Arkansas at 2 losses. I'm going to think of it. That does wrap the power conferences. Real quick, let's go through. Who do you have winning the ACC, Danny?
For the ACC, I think it's going to be Florida State against North Carolina.
Pig Bear?
Yeah, I have to say Florida State versus North Carolina now since Clemson lost.
Yeah, give me Florida State and Duke to run the table. To the Big East, I like Temple taking on Cincinnati. Pig Bear?
Yeah, give me Temple, Cincinnati.
Danny?
Also,
Give me Temple UCF. I believe that's going to be a little more of an interesting matchup, and I think with Cincinnati going to Orlando later this season, the battle's going to be rocking. Also, yes, Cincinnati has played 4 conference games already. Georgetown, UConn, Pitt, and St. John's.
While we're at it, Cincinnati, one of the first teams to become bowl eligible. Joined by Iowa in the Big Ten. Who do you guys have as your top 2 Big Ten teams? Danny?
gonna give it to Michigan, Penn State. I believe those two are still gonna be the ones who are gonna run the table, even with their late start to conference play.
I think it is Michigan, Penn State as well. Pig Bear?
Ohio State, Penn State. Here.
Big 12. I think my new favorites are Kansas State and Oklahoma State. Danny?
I'm gonna pick Kansas and Oklahoma.
Pig Bear?
Yeah, give me Kansas and Oklahoma.
All right. To the Pac-12. I'm gonna be bold. Give me Utah and UCLA. Danny?
Give me UCLA and Oregon.
Pig Bear?
Give me Arizona and Oregon.
And we'll wrap these big conference previews with the SEC. I like a matchup between Tennessee and Tulane. Danny?
Give me Tennessee and Georgia.
Pig Bear?
Give me Tennessee and Florida in a rematch.
All right, that wraps that. I'm gonna real quick. I put together a poll, or a ranking of BCS busters. We have a lot. There are 21 teams in non-power conferences with with one loss or fewer, which I think is the benchmark at this point if you want to get that extra spot. With this much competition and with how well the power conferences are playing, there might only be one spot to claim, and there are plenty of teams vying for it. Starting with, of course, the Mountain West, they do have the auto bid to the Fiesta Bowl, though we're not sure if they'll keep it after realignment is through this year. Boise State, of course, the favorite among this group. That's actually going to take a hit. Now, that San Jose State has beaten them. Air Force jumping to the favorite of those spots. And right behind them, undefeated Rice out of the Conference USA. The CUSA is the spot right now for that BCS berth. You have Rice, you have Liberty, you have UTSA, who still only has one loss. Also, Southern Miss and Texas State on the fringe. Looking at unbeaten still, we mentioned Liberty in the CUSA. Their last game of the year is James Madison, who is still undefeated. Imagine an unbeaten matchup between JMU and Liberty. That might be quite likely, though Liberty does have a CUSA schedule to attend to. San Jose State rising on the ranks, and New Mexico State not the favorite in the WAC. Instead, it's Louisiana Tech who jumps up ahead. Also, Hawaii is in that conversation. Of course, the big team that's thrown around in these conversations is Columbia. Can Columbia run the table, become the first Ivy League team to make the BCS? I don't think they can, because first off, their resume does not stack up. I don't think their best game this season was against a hovering around 500 Army right now. And their second best is Delaware. I think Columbia's schedule is quite weak, and they don't really have a lot more left to play. They play Ivy League schools, obviously. It's going to have to be like a Stephen F. Austin case where you run the table in order to even have a chance of it. The problem with that is the Ivy League has no conference championship. If Columbia goes unbeaten and Rice goes unbeaten and wins the CUSA, who do you think the committee's picking first? Is all I'm saying. I think Columbia is behind Rice, the winner of the Mountain West. I think they'd be behind the winner of the one-loss team winner of the WAC even. But also some fringe teams to look out for. Western Michigan and Akron are both 5-1. Idaho out of the WAC. FIU is the one-loss team in the Sun Belt. Of course, I mentioned Southern Miss and Texas State from the CUSA. 2 one-loss teams remain in the Missouri Valley, Southern Illinois and Drake. Chattanooga is a one-loss team out of the SoCon. they're probably the best chance at dethroning James Madison. And how about Holy Cross? The Crusaders are a one-loss team this season out of the American. I don't know how long that lasts, hence why they're at the very bottom of this list. But right now, I think the favorite to BCS bust is either the winner of the Mountain West, be it Air Force or San Jose State, or the winner of the CUSA, Rice and Liberty are the first teams that come to mind for me. Danny, who's your BCS buster?
Well, reminder, the Mountain West's already a automatic qualifier, so they already kind of got in. But I think if we are going to pick team of the non-power schools, I think it's gonna be a CUSA team, especially Rice. I think Rice has really pushed themselves to be rising up the ranks for football, at least.
Pig Bear?
I know y'all aren't hot on it, but I have to be. Columbia, trust me.
I don't know how much I trust Columbia, because I already mentioned they have a lot of things stacked. Also, we're not entirely sure if they can. Of course, the Ivy League is no guarantee still. You play Harvard on the road. Harvard is a very difficult school, and they have a tougher resume on their schedule. Columbia played a winless Buffalo and a FCS LaSalle. Harvard played close with formerly ranked Duke and Ohio State. I think Columbia's got an uphill battle ahead of them, is all I'm going to say. Let's now move into our top 25. Some shakeup from last week for certain, including a new member of our top 5 with Clemson dropping out. Oklahoma State, Michigan, your top 2 still. Oregon and Penn State, now 3 and 4. And sitting at number 5 is Ohio State. The Buckeyes becoming the 3rd team from the Big Ten in the top 5. 6 and 7, the 2 ACC top teams, Florida State and Clemson. Number 8, Florida, out of the SEC, still hanging on there. New to the top 10 this week is Utah, getting ready for a matchup against Oregon. Number 10 is Cincinnati, the 6-0 Bearcats, sitting on the fringe of the top 10. Number 11 is UCF. Number 12, dropping from last week, USC. Kansas, also dropping, is at number 13. Georgia, sitting at 14. 15 is Tennessee. At number 16, Boise, still hanging on into the top 25, in spite of their loss. Michigan State, now falling to number 17. Number 18, also from the Big Ten, Iowa, the 5th team in the Big Ten to be ranked. Stanford, after their win, hovers at 19. Number 20, the unbeaten UCLA. Now, number 21, dropping like a stone from last week, is Louisville. Number 22, Wisconsin, still hanging on. Number 23, New Mexico State. Number 24, the only new team to the top 25 this week, Texas A&M. And at number 25, Oklahoma. I don't know why Oklahoma dropped as much as they did from last week, but they did. They had a bye, so there wasn't really a loss to contend with. Their next game is the Red River rivalry against Texas. Next teams up on the poll include Air Force, Arizona, Liberty, Duke, NC State, Columbia, Tulane, Alabama, North Carolina, San Jose State, Auburn, Missouri, Rice, and BYU. Thoughts on this top 25?
Yeah, that there's some questionable things, especially with like Oklahoma dropping even though they didn't lose, but Boise State actually rising when they won. And Tennessee just jumped in from being like right outside the top 25 to being number 15. A little bit strange.
A strange week. Pig Bear?
Yeah, it's a strange week. Just a lot of teams that are undefeated and close to being undefeated, like San Jose State. They're not too high up, even though they are not a non-power school. You just have to be a little higher at least. Especially over Boise. And maybe like the North Carolinas and Auburns of the world, they're just kind of hovering outside.
All right. Top 25 aside now, let's move into the top games of the week. I mentioned at the top of the show, this is what I've coined Blockbuster Week. What might be the biggest week of the year in terms of the slate. We have so many great games, including some that only got better as the season went forward. And now that we're here, it's going to be an entertaining one. Let's start once again with the ACC. Miami heading on the road to take on Wake Forest. Demon Deacons are actually the favorites in this one, but give me Miami to pull off the upset. Danny?
Give me Miami. I think they're gonna win.
It was a little quiet, but I did hear Miami. Pig Bear?
Go Deeks. Miami. Wake Forest. I'm like, yeah.
We
Wake
got it
Forest.
anyway.
The Miami Deacons and the Wake Forest Hurricanes.
What is now a ranked matchup up next. Number 1 Oklahoma State heads to College Station to take on number 24 Texas A&M. The Aggies are still undefeated, as are the Pokes. OK State, the favorites in this one. Their smallest, only favored by 3.5, the smallest margin all season for the Pokes. But give me Oklahoma State to remain undefeated. Danny?
Give me the Pokes as well.
Pig Bear?
As we know, Kyle Field's a hard place to play for top 10 teams, but give me the Pokes here.
Up next, staying in the Big 12, Red River Shootout. Oklahoma, undefeated as of this point, number 25 team in the country, taking on Texas. Texas was ranked to start the year, but fell out. A good enough win here might put them back on some people's polls. OU, the favorites in this one by 3.5. Your thoughts, Danny?
Give me OU as well.
Pig Bear?
Give me OU.
I'm going to pick Oklahoma as well. Meanwhile, Clemson, after their loss to Florida State, heads back to Death Valley to face the boogeyman from last season in the Duke Blue Devils. Duke coming off a loss to Georgia Tech. They're going to be hungry. They're going to fight for this one. I think Clemson, though, is going to want it more. Give me the Tigers to win. Danny?
Give me the Tigers as well.
Big Bear?
Give me Clemson.
Up next, two undefeated Big Ten teams. Penn State heads to Bloomington to take on Indiana. The number 4 Nittany Lions taking on a team just hovering outside of the top 25. Penn State, the 9.5-point favorites in this one. I'm feeling gutsy this week. Give me Indiana to win this one. Danny?
Give me Indiana as well.
Pig Bear?
We are Penn State. Penn State wins.
Up next, what we thought entering this year would be the two favorites of the SEC facing off against each other are now simply just two really good SEC teams facing off against each other, but still going to make some entertaining matchups. Nonetheless, Alabama heading to number 8 Florida. The Gators are 6-point favorites in this. Give me Florida to win it.
Give me Florida as well.
Big Bear?
Give me Florida.
All Florida. Up next, staying in the SEC, the Deep South's oldest rivalry, the Auburn Tigers, just outside the top 25, taking on the number 14 Georgia Bulldogs in Jordan-Hare. Some crazy stuff has happened all time here. I like Auburn in an upset, though. Danny?
QP. Oh no. You said Auburn, Georgia, right?
Correct.
Give me Georgia.
Pig Bear?
Wiggle, war damn eagle. Give me Auburn.
Up next to the Big East. 4-1 UCF taking on a 3-2 Louisville, coming off a loss to West Virginia. The UCF Knights won the civil conflict last week over UConn. UCF the favorites at home in this one. I like Louisville in an upset, though. I think the Cardinals are very hungry and trying to fight their way back into the top 25. Danny?
Give me UCF. they're going to lay them down, and it's also being played in Orlando.
Big Bear.
Give me UCF.
Up next, Florida State takes their unbeaten record to Raleigh to take on a 5-1 NC State squad. The Wolfpack are the underdogs in this one as Florida State heads on the road. Give me FSU to win it. Danny?
Give me FSU as well.
Pig Bear?
I really don't like either team, but I'm salty and bitter. And actually, I do think NC State will get the upset here in Raleigh.
Up next, the first leg of the Commander-in-Chief's trophies on the way. Air Force, undefeated, taking on an Army squad who fights in every game they play. AFA, the favorites. I like Air Force to remain unbeaten on their route to potentially try and snatch a conference championship. Danny?
Yeah, I believe I'm gonna pick Air Force in this one.
Big Bear?
Give me Air Force.
Up next, staying now the ace from the AFA to the Big East. Cincinnati, 6-0, punching their ticket to bowl eligibility. Can they get further than that? Trying to get their 7th win of the year against West Virginia, who's just come off a win over Louisville. A win here for West Virginia would immediately catapult them into top 25 talks and put them right back with the Big East top dogs. Cincy the favorites, though. I like the Bearcats. I think they're going to win it. Danny?
Give me Cincinnati.
Pig Bear?
Give me West Virginia.
Up next, a favorite rivalry of mine, Michigan, hosting Notre Dame. The 3-2 Fighting Irish taking on a 5-0 Wolverine squad. Michigan, the heavy favorites in this, but I think they'll play close. Give me Michigan in a win, but it'll be closer than the experts have it. Danny?
Give me Michigan as well.
Pig Bear?
Give me Michigan.
Up next, a newly blossoming rivalry between Arkansas and Ole Miss plays out this weekend. Arkansas, the favorites, but they have to head to Oxford to take on a difficult Mississippi squad. Give me the Razorbacks to win on the road, though. Danny?
Give me Arkansas as well.
Pig Bear?
Give me Arkansas. Ole Miss has had a bad season so far.
Also, if we're talking this rivalry, does this rivalry have a name? I don't remember if it does.
The Houston Nut Bowl. I don't know.
Which game? Which rivalry?
Arkansas Ole Miss. Does it have a rivalry name?
I believe it does. Let me just get that real quick.
Because I know both these teams' rivalries with LSU have names. Up next, though, while you look that up, Stanford and USC, a ranked matchup, the number 19 Cardinal hosting the number 12 Trojans. Probably overshadowed by a different Pac-12 matchup, which we'll get to.
Yep, the game is called the Tommy Bell game.
Tommy Bell game. From there, I don't think USC Stanford has a name, but one of the most impactful rivalries in the Pac-12 nonetheless. USC the favorites, but I like Stanford in an upset here. Danny?
Give me USC. I believe USC is going to win this game.
Big Bear?
Give me Stanford just because it's in Palo Alto.
We wrap with two of the best teams in the Big 12 North. K-State heading to Provo to take on BYU. I like the BYU Cougars to improve their standing in the division with a win tonight, with a win on Saturday night. Danny?
Wait, what was the game again? Sorry.
K-State BYU.
Give me BYU. I think BYU's gonna have a very loud and ruckus atmosphere.
Pig Bear?
Give me K-State.
K-State you're picking. And now on to our game of the week. I had this game circled from day one. Once I knew this team was coming to the pack, and I knew they were going to be in the same division, and I knew they were going to play each other. I knew this was going to be a game that I had to highlight. We love our Oregon here. Oregon always gives us entertaining games, and I think this one might end up taking the cake. The Oregon Ducks heading to Salt Lake to take on Utah for the first time as pack members. The Utes hosting Oregon. They're back in the top 10 for the first time since 2021. They've been playing some of their best football. They've been dominant against all their opponents, as has Oregon. Just tons of scoring on both hands. It's going to be an entertaining one. The Ducks are the favorites on the road by 2.5. I like Utah, though, to take control of this division. Danny?
Yeah, give me the Ducks.
All right, send us home, Pig Bear.
Give me the Ducks. Where's the sound? It's a tradition. We play it all the time.
Where's the sound?
I'm bored. Here we are.
There it is. Well, that's going to do it for us here at the 2K Weekly Podcast. A bit ramshackle. We had to prepare it pretty quickly, though. Hopefully we have more breathing room next week. Thank you all for watching today's episode. Don't forget to tune in on Saturday. Do you have anything else that we want to plug?
Stay safe, everyone.
Stay safe. The hurricane's on the way in Florida, of course. I think that'll cover it. That's all from us. Thank you so much for watching, and so long from the 2KU.